us right now. So, Chris, what is your biggest takeaway from last night's game?
That Brooklyn is a problem, a major problem, and not just in the East, but everywhere. Look, I get that AD and Dennis Schroeder out. Those are two of the Lakers' best defenders. But the numbers show the Lakers are still stellar. In fact, they actually show they're better defensively with those two off the floor. I don't agree with that, but they still are a stellar defensive team without them on the floor. And they couldn't do anything with Brooklyn. I mean, Brooklyn ran roughshod over them without KD, so it kind of balanced out that KD's out, AD and Schroeder out. The fact for Brooklyn is this. They can get an open shot anytime they want to. Every trip down the floor, somebody can get an open shot because they're playmakers, Kyrie and James Harden, and obviously Durant when he's there. They draw so much attention. They're so good off the dribble that Joe Harris, Timothy Luwawu-Cabarrot, Jeff Green, they're going to get open shots. And one thing about NBA players, I'm sure you guys have been in the gym with them too, they drain open shots. They drain open three-pointers. So Joe Harris is shooting 51% from three. The Nets have been the best three-point shooting team in the league since Harden's been there. They got 5 guys shooting 42% or better. That is a lot to handle. And the Lakers, the number 1 defensive team in the league, could do nothing with them. Then they can go small. So they started with Jeff Green. And obviously that was too much for Marc Gasol to help Brooklyn get out to the big lead because he couldn't get out there with him at the three-point line. And today's NBA, there is no team in the league that's going to punish Brooklyn for playing small. And I include Philadelphia in that. I know Joel Embiid is great, and he can post, and he's in the post more than ever, but he's still on the perimeter more than he is inside. So Brooklyn can get away with that small ball, and Green's going to take the big man outside and hit threes. And so Brooklyn, look, they're definitely winning the East. There's no question about it. It would take an injury to 2 of their stars, not just 1, 2 of their superstars, or an implosion for them not to win the East. I'm not ready to come off the Lakers, my prediction that they'll win it all. I came off them last year at Christmas after their second loss to the Clippers, and I regretted it. So I'm going to stick with them for now. But Brooklyn, look, they're tough. That's all there is to it. And the Lakers found that out last night.
Well, what I learned last night, LeBron is going to have his work cut out for him with AD being out. Now we know for at least a month, and depending on how much longer Schroeder's going to be out. So I guess protocol at least a week, so he's probably going to miss, considering they're playing every other day. They got a game Friday night, they got a game Saturday night, and then they play again on, I think if I'm not mistaken, Monday. So they're playing every other day. So Schroeder could easily miss the next 2 to 3 ball games. So he has his work cut out for him. And I think the thing was for me, Chris, yeah, they struggled defensively because you got 2 guys that can break you down off the dribble, and then when you come to help, they're going to kick to those guys, and right now they're riding a hot hand. They got 65 made threes over the last 3 ball games. But the problem that the Lakers run into is that if you can't defend, you got to be able to score. You see the problem with what the Brooklyn Nets can do, while they might have a trouble stopping you, they're going to put points on your head also. Well, when you minus 30 at the three-point line, Chris, you're going to lose a lot of those games. You're going to lose probably 8 to 9 of those 10 games if you're minus 30, considering the team is getting up 39 and they're making 18. They shot 46% from the three. Joe Harris, 5 or 6. TLC didn't miss but a handful. Shamet was great from the three. And when they go small, everybody is live from the three-point line. So now, unless Marc Gasol is going to make Jeff Green pay the ultimate price and punish him, get your 14, get your 16. He's of no use to you because he can't get you enough rebounds to offset the potential threes that they're going to be launching away. So, yeah, you're going to miss Anthony Davis. Can Anthony Davis come back and punish, say, are you going to put KD on him or are you going to put Jeff Green? Well, if you put Jeff Green on him, AD is going to have to probably average 35 and 17, and LeBron's going to need to go for 38 and 11 in order to be close. Because, as you mentioned, those three guys will probably average somewhere between 75 and 85 points. You're going to have to get your big two is going to need to give you somewhere between 68 and 72, and you're going to hope Kuz, Schroeder, or somebody chip in. But they got to get going from the three-point line, Chris and Skip. KCP is struggling shooting the three. Everybody's struggling shooting the three ball from the Lakers. And remember, they had that problem last year. And then they kind of caught fire come playoff time. So they better hope that happens. But Brooklyn looked good. Let's not talk about what the Lakers didn't do. Brooklyn looked really good. And it wasn't so much Kyrie and James Harden. It was the role players that made the movie the success. Because Joe Harris, Shamet, TLC was spectacular shooting the three ball.
So I agree with my friend Chris Broussard in one aspect, which Shannon just co-signed. That is, the Nets are serious business. I said it from day one. They share the ball just fine. Obviously, we haven't seen KD a whole lot, only 6 games with Kyrie and James. But when I have seen them, it works. KD is not a ball demander. He's not a black hole that the ball's going to get lost in every night. No, he's as efficient a scorer as we've ever seen in the league at the highest level. So not only do I think they can do it offensively, but I have fought with Shannon to say, I think when they decide to, they can play reasonably good defense. They can play playoff caliber, win the championship defense at a reasonable enough level to win the championship, to win the East and the finals, because they play up to the level of competition. Do you realize this team is now 10-1 this season against teams above 500? Yeah, it'll dog it on defense against teams below 500, teams they don't take seriously enough. But when it's time, when it's the Lakers at Staples, they take it up several levels. And I was stunned that the Brooklyn Nets, and I know they're down KD versus AD and there's no Schroeder. I get that. But in general, they held LeBron and company to 98 points at Staples. They held them below 100. That's extraordinary to me. And by the way, the flip side of that record against 500 teams, the Lakers are now 4-7 against teams above 500. So now back to my biggest takeaway was, as Chris points out, the Nets came out almost as small as the Rockets played last year with their small ball lineup. And I thought out of the box, LeBron, you are on. Not just to solidify his MVP case. We're talking about close the case over the next 9, 10, 11 games, however long AD is going to be out. And I thought Joe Harris is guarding LeBron from the tip-off for the first 10 minutes of this game. Joe Harris, not to be confused with a first-team all-defensive player, tried to check LeBron. And he actually did okay because LeBron was not nearly aggressive enough. He has been in his career the greatest driver of the basketball I have ever seen. And I thought last night would be a victory parade to the basket for LeBron James in the first quarter, especially the first 10 minutes of that game. And that did not happen. Again, Shannon's made the point. He wants to facilitate. He wants to get everybody involved. Last night was his night because he was bigger than any of the Nets starters last night, including Jeff Green on his 10th NBA team at 6'8", say 235. LeBron's 6'9", at least 260. Well, he could have terrorized them in the paint going to the basket, and he didn't do that nearly enough last night, not to mention another 1 of 6 from 3, not to mention another 3 of 6 from the free throw line. So he did not exactly bolster his MVP case to me last night.
Chris, let me put this in here. When you look at the Nets, when you look at the Brooklyn Nets, Skip, the Brooklyn Nets are like the Kansas City Chiefs. Their offense is their defense. They put so much pressure on you that if you don't stay close to them, then you won't find out how porous their defense is. And that's what happened with the Lakers. When you fall behind by 25, it seems like everything they put up started going into the basket. You see what happened with Kansas City? When they fell behind, you see how easily Tampa made it look? Kansas City's defense has been like this all year, but very few teams could get to 30. very few teams could get to 35, 38 to put pressure on them. Someone got to a magic number. You see teams, when the teams get to 130, along with Brooklyn, you see what happens? You see when they get to the 120s, what happens? Well, if you only score, like Miami, only score 85, you're not beating that team scoring 85 points. You're not beating that team scoring 98 points. You better get to the high teens or 20s in order to give yourself a chance to beat this team.
Skip, I want to address a few things you said, Skip. With LeBron, I think he's playing the long game. I was frustrated with him last year in their regular season matchups with the Clippers because I was like, especially the early ones, I was like, be more aggressive. What are you doing? What's LeBron doing? And he was playing the long game, you know, seeing what they were about, seeing what his teammates could do against that team. I think that was the approach he took last night. To your point about the defense, they don't have to be the bad boy Pistons. They don't have to be the Jordan Bulls defensively. They just have to be adequate. They could probably get away with being the worst championship defensive team we've seen. And in their 5-game win streak, they've been 18th in the league defensively, which is good enough for them because their offense is so good. Remember, Durant hasn't been out there. Durant won't hurt the defense.
No.
He's going to obviously help the offense tremendously. And because Harden and Kyrie can do it so much offensively, that'll give him more energy theoretically for the defensive end. So they just have to be adequate, be able to get stops here or there when necessary. And I think they can do it. I like hearing Kyrie and Harden talk about defense after every game and how that's what they're focusing on. And Skip, finally, you said it, 10-3 against the elite teams. They've beaten every elite team in the league. The Lakers, the Clippers, Utah, Denver, if you throw Indiana in there, Boston, Philadelphia, Milwaukee, they've beaten them all. And that's with their stars in and out of the lineup. It's scary. If they can get on the court consistently together, it's going to be scary. Okay,
so we talked about this the last couple of days, but Chris, do you still have LeBron as an edge in the MVP race? Do you still have him slightly ahead?
Slightly. Look, Embiid is missing, games. So I think he's still up there. But Dame now, I think Dame is those are my top 3. Kawhi's missing a lot of games, too. Dame is carrying him. I don't know if he can do it, the rest of this year. But those are the 3 that I have. And, I agree. I don't think LeBron helped this case last night. But he didn't hurt it to the point where I don't still think he's slightly ahead.
Okay, I know he made a lot of sort of fancy-dancy fadeaways and fallaways, the oohs and ahs. He had one big thunder dunk. But I just want to remind everybody, in 9 games in February, he's shooting 27% from 3. I want to remind everyone that overall, he ranks out of the top 100 in three-point shooting and free throw shooting, and that he's second barely in turnovers to Luka. So right now, I do not have him as the MVP frontrunner.
And with all that being said, Chris, and with all that being said, guess what? His team still has the second best record. He leads his team in scoring. He leads his team in assists, and he's second on his team in rebounding.